Peace, Hotep, brothers and sisters. My name is Dr. Leonard Jeffries. My African stool name is Nana Kwekujwa Ajiman II of the Agogo stool in Asante, Ghana, the Akan people in West Africa. I want you to be a part of what we're doing. The Media Advocates is an important process. You need to join us, and it will help you master the knowledge and help you grow in truth and understanding. And it will help you aid your families in the work that they need to be about. And so it takes great strength and knowledge in order to do great things. And we want you to understand that our people have done it. They haven't been comedians. They haven't been jokers. They haven't been losers. They have been able to prevail over the worst processes of dehumanization. And out of that have come new life, new understanding. And as you can see, it's in the books, it's in the experiences. And we are not jiving. We're trying to put some real strength in your hands. Knowledge is power, and African knowledge is African empowerment. And so join us. Come to the Media Advocate site, and then become a part of us. And there are other sites that you can find once you touch base with us. We've got to put it in the popular process so that it becomes more than just entertainment. It becomes empowerment. Knowledge is empowerment.
Okay. Dr. Jeffries, welcome back.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, we had a little break, had a little orange juice break, a little spring water break, and we're going to keep moving forward with this vehicle of information, the Job Man Caravan and the MediaAdvocates.com. It was great to hear some of the things that you talked about on the 10/10 march. The naysayers, the haters, the foolish Negroes. You know, I came back proudly wearing my T-shirt and, you know, full of the energy that I had absorbed from just being around. There's a lot of energy around black people, man,
right.
Or the good vibe, you know?
Yes.
I mean, I sucked it up. I held on to it. I'm still holding on to it, but it's not as strong as it was that day,
Yes.
that next 2 or 3 days, you know? And they wanted to know, well, what's the or else?
Mm-hmm.
That was their thing, you know?
Right.
What was the or else? And I said, well, let me ask you this, my brother. You see all this bad weather we having?
Mm-hmm.
See all these floods we having? See all these rainstorms we having? Maybe that might be the or else. You know? And another thing we didn't really go into was how beautiful the weather was on those days.
Yes. And
only the Creator could have gave us those days. Imagine all of those people in a rain-soaked or bad weather. It was just almost like the heavens opened up and said, here's your day, black folks.
And a day or two before, there was rain.
Yeah.
And, so,
and the day of the event, because I constantly was checking on the weather.
Right.
You know, I said, I'm going anyhow, you know.
Yes.
And as soon as we got in Washington, D.C., man, the dark clouds moved away and it came, you know. So here we are, you know, this great scholar trying to take advantage of the knowledge he wants to share with us. And one of the things that over my shoulder here are these scepters. And it's about maybe 15 or 20 of them.
In this room, and then there's another 15, there's a 30 altogether in the living room.
And what do they represent, Dr. Jeffries?
The knowledge.
Okay.
And the person who makes sure that the knowledge is properly communicated. They're linguist staff. And see, the linguist is the person in the African tradition, in the Akan tradition, who accepts the word from the president, from the king, and then he presents it to the body. And so the king speaks through his linguist, and the linguist speaks to, for example, if I went to have an audience of the great king, Atunfo Pokawari II of the Ashanti, and he was a very good friend for 30 years, he would, at one point he spoke to me directly, but that was out of tradition, and that was a great tribute that he felt that secure. But in a formal setting, he would give me a linguist, and his linguist, the chief linguist, would speak to my linguist as we transmitted the messages. And it's just a fantastic culture. Each symbol on top of the staff is a parable, is a saying. And one of the symbols, for example, the second one that you see there is the bird looking back. That's the Sankofa bird. Go back and fetch the knowledge so that you can fly off into the future. So that's why our culture, even in its artistic formulation, speaks to our particular truth. And so we don't want to be decultured, but that's what modern society does. It takes you away from your culture, and it doesn't allow you to appreciate the strong grounds that you're standing on, the solid grounds that you're standing on. So we have, in many cases, we have been there's a process of dehumanization that has gone on through slavery and to the current day, but we have been decultured. That shaking our booty and jumping up and down is not culture. That's a part of entertainment. Deep culture is the transmission of values. So you appreciate the individual and his relationship to the collective. You appreciate the family and the various family clans that make up the collective. You appreciate those who have been stamped with the spirit of the ancestors to take on leadership. Nobody just doesn't take on leadership because they are the son of so-and-so. In fact, among the Ashanti, for example, you may have 1,200 royals. Those are the people who are in a position of the royal clan to be considered for leadership. And then they, through the council discussions and whatnot, the women in council, the men in council, they come to the dozen that they're going to deal with. And then they get that down in the last selection of Ashanti King. I think there were 7. And finally they got down to the Queen Mother's son, which is unusual because usually it doesn't pass from father to son or mother to son or auntie to son. They have what they call matrilineal succession, that the line of inheritance passes through the female in the family. Some associations have patrilineal succession, but I'm just trying to give a look at our deep cultural traditions and the meanings that they have. When they have drumming, you can have sacred drumming. You can have drumming that gives a message. The blowing of the horns, when they blow those horns, it sends shivers through you. You know something special is going to happen. So we've been blessed, my wife and I. My wife first made the pilgrimage to Africa in 60, in a village in Nigeria. I went in 61, and then we met. And a lot of our friends had the African experience, and we still are close, and most of the marriages are still intact. So it appears that that African experience gave us something extra to put in our mix, some cement to keep us together. Because when you go to Africa, you realize how poor people are, but they know how to survive. How poor people don't have what you have, but they know how to be happy. How they have traditions that are not the traditions written down in the American sense, but they have traditions that are written in the minds and the hearts, coming from the oral tradition.
Dr. Jeffries, we're going to go into this subject in a lot more detail, but we don't have time on this session.
Yes.
But briefly, can you describe Africa, our homeland, prior to the European invasion? Can you just give me a visualization of what was going on in our homeland prior to
the European presence?
Yeah.
Well,
when he stepped his bloody footprint on our
right.
on our continent.
Well, that's important because you have to have a historical sense when you're talking about Africa. And in our Western tradition, we have...
Let's talk about West Africa.
Right. In our Western tradition, we have BC, before the Christian era, and AD. after. And so, but there's deep African history before that, and there's strong African history after that. So if you say we want to go and deal with the traditions of West Africa, I like to deal with ages. When you're talking about the Nile Valley, you're dealing with set ages around dynasties. So you might have, a dynasty is a ruling family, so you may have ruling families that cover a period of 200 years, 300 years, some 400 years. So in all of these African traditions in the different parts of the continent, these traditions of family relationships and rulership vary, but they have a continuity, that there's always respect for the elders, that there's a spiritual component. That means that we are more than just our current alive folks, that we have deep ancestral roots. And then the African family, for example, is the extended living family. It is the ancestors that have gone, and it is the yet to be born. So in the African tradition, you have a sophisticated family concept of dealing with your circumstances, living out, and then extending the family out. The family is extended beyond just your biological nuclear family. It's the extended family. And that extended family means that aunts and uncles, or people that are not even aunts and uncles, but are in your sphere, are considered a family. And to this day, I'm calling people aunts and uncles that are not my biological aunts and uncles, but they are part of the family. And so I say that I've been blessed, and my brother was blessed, to grow up in a village, an urban village in Newark, New Jersey, where my mother and father and my brother and I lived on 14th Street. My mother's family lived on 13th Street. My father's family lived on 12th Street. And so wherever we went, hands were on us. And so of the 100 youngsters I grew up with, 90 of us made it. And most of us made it big, because we had the African village where you respect each other, where you work together, where the youngsters, we had our ball teams together, we went to camp together, we went to Sunday school together. So, and the parents knew that they could depend upon others to raise us. Now this is the deep African tradition that comes out of our village. Now, West Africa, where Alex Haley clearly gave us the understanding that some village in Africa, in West Africa, most of us come out of. And then a lot of Africans came out of Central Africa, in the Congo area, and Angola. Fewer came out of East Africa. But all over the continent we have roots. And so to appreciate these roots, you have to break them up into historical periods. If we want to start today, we can go back through the colonialism. And today with the new states, many people are saying they haven't become fully independent states. So it represents neo-colonialism, the new type of colonialism, where the former colonial so-called masters still have their control on your economics, your politics, and your culture. But if we go back past the neo-colonialism of today and past the colonialism of the last few hundred years, then you get into the indigenous African history. And each part of the continent can be looked at in terms of large regions and integrated. There's a North African region, and that's where you have Algeria, from Morocco in the west all the way through to Algeria in the north, all the way through to Egypt and the Sudan in the east. And so that's a homogeneous region, and it's unified by traditional African ethnic groups, but there's a unity of Islam that provides cohesion and cultural cohesion. So all these regions can be looked at in terms of economics, in terms of politics, in terms of culture. And then you'll see, at a certain period of time, the forces came together to create a powerful economics, You need a strong political structure to manage the economics, and then you need a culture to continue it over the generations.